and gentlemen, welcome back. Season 2 of Eye of the Storm, a Guelph Storm podcast with myself, Ryan Drury, the voice of your Guelph Storm on Rogers TV. And we thought, why not kick off Season 2 with a key new face in town, somebody everybody in Storm Nation is excited to welcome to the Royal City, a former OHLer, a longtime NHLer, a two-time Stanley Cup champion, but more importantly, the new head coach of our Guelph Storm, Cory Stillman. Cory, welcome to the show. Welcome to Guelph.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm excited to be here. We've about 2 weeks in right now, so things are starting to move along, and we're looking forward to our exhibition games here at home on Friday and Saturday night.
We'll see you there on Saturday. The Rogers crew will be there. We're excited to get things started. And I guess we'll start with coming to Guelph, before we kind of look back and look forward on your career and obviously the Storm and the upcoming season. What was it about the Guelph Storm job that intrigued you and made it seem like a great fit for you to come to the Royal City?
Well, I to go back a little bit. I did player development for 7 years. Got my feet wet in Sudbury as a head coach of the Sudbury Wolves. There was an opportunity to move up and become an assistant coach in the NHL, which I did with the Arizona Coyotes. Moved now to Salt Lake. But then this opportunity came back. I'd like to be a head coach in the National Hockey League one day. And you're coming to this team. It's an organization that wins, right? They're not winning every year, but usually, if you look back off their record, every 3 or 4 or 5 years, they're back in. They're in the Memorial Cup. They're in the OHL Championship, and I think just like location wise, everything that the history of this club, I was excited when the opportunity came to apply, and then go through the process of becoming the head coach.
Well, I know that there was quite a buzz in the city and amongst the fan base when it was announced that you'd be coming to be the coach. And obviously, the team last year went through some ups and downs. They were a very young team, and the team's still pretty young, but there are a lot of guys that have experienced quite a bit of growth. And obviously, I think offensively is a key area where people want to see the team grow a little bit. Tell everybody a little bit about what your coaching philosophy is, I guess your style, if you will.
Well, we will be a hardworking team, is what every coach says, but it is part. We had a game the other day that we want to take time and space away. We want to skate. We did score 6 goals, and I think with the team we have, the skill we have, is we're going to have to play a game where we're skating, we're in people's faces, we're angling. When big hits come around, but I think we want to possess the pocket, and from going back, looking at teams that can play in the offensive zone and put shifts together for 30, 40 seconds often create a lot of scoring chances. And that's what I'd like to see. I don't think we're going to score 6 goals every night, but I think if we can score three on average, 4 on good nights, we're going to win a lot of hockey games. And saying that, we are young. We have a young decor, but we have guys that are up and coming. And I think this year we'll have almost 3 17-year-olds, maybe 4 17-year-olds on the back end. And it is a 19, 20-year-old league. But I think if we start the process, if we start it at step one, give us some time, I think by Christmas moving forward, you're going to see a big improvement in our hockey club.
You've obviously got lots of experience with the league. You're an Ontario kid as well, obviously from the Peterborough area, and know this league. You've coached in the league on top of playing in it. And you've had a long and lengthy career. You're a great offensive player yourself. How critical have you found that over your coaching career to being able to relate to younger kids, having all of that experience? You went through all the same things that these kids went through yourself.
Well, going back, I can sit and talk to a kid and say, probably I've experienced what's happening to you, whether you're on a hot streak, you've scored points in 10 straight games, whether you haven't scored a point in 10 games, you're on the power play, you're being a healthy scratch, you've been traded. I've been through all of it, lived through all of it, had, coached in this level, played in this level. I've had 2 sons that have gone through this level within the last 5-6 years. So you can relate back to them. You see what they're doing. You see how the game is changing, and you can see that actually the skill, of the game in the OHL is probably a lot higher than it was when I played, and now it's to grow on that and grow with the kids. And again, it's fun for me coming to teach. It is coaching, but I really enjoy teaching also.
Let's kind of look back and remember back to when you started playing. Obviously, I mentioned, you're from the Peterborough region and grew up playing for the minor Petes and got drafted in the OHL with Windsor. When you look back on that time, what are some of your favorite memories growing up as a kid? What made growing up in that Peterborough area special as a hockey player?
Well, at that time, Peterborough was producing a lot of OHL and NHL players, and we didn't have to try. We didn't have to travel to Toronto to do summer skates or anything like that. The players that were there might have been 15, 20 guys that played in the American League or the NHL, and so there was good skates. But growing up, I was fortunate. We had a park in the backyard. At that time, there was cold winters. My father, the old story, made a rink that we would go out and skate and work on. And I think the biggest thing of that one is just enjoying the game, and you go through your ups and downs. For me personally, I was say a good novice, minor Adam, major Adam player. I struggled from minor, all the peewees and Bantam until major Bantam. Something clicked, and I went on. And we look at kids today where they come in and there's the underage. Everyone is drafted as an underage, and then it's like you don't make it as a 16-year-old, and then it's in my hockey, is it over? I'm not going to make it. I never played in the OHL until I was 17, right? So I'm excited about guys here that they've gone back, they've played junior B for 1 year, and now they're coming back in, they're fresh, and there's an opportunity. And I think it's great. That was the one thing I would say about it is I didn't play junior till I was 17. Todd Warner was my line mate in Windsor, was an underage, and we gelled together. We both came in, and as we moved forward and looked at the draft, we were both high draft picks.
You certainly were, obviously sixth overall. And, like I said, you can kind of relate to a lot of these guys in this age group. They would all love to play in the NHL someday. Some of them are already drafted. And, speak of relating to somebody, you're a very high draft pick in the National Hockey League. And you're going to get to work with a kid this year who was a very high draft pick in the National Hockey League this year, and that's Jet Luchenko, a kid that has become an instant fan favorite in Guelph, 13th overall to the Philadelphia Flyers. You guys have very similar styles. You were a really good offensive player. You were crafty with the puck. He certainly fits that bill. I'm sure you're really excited to be able to come into a team and work with a kid like that.
Excited to do that. You can watch as much tape as you want and watch him on television. And the other day in Brampton, I got to see him live in a real game, and just the poise he has with the puck, how he controls it, the plays he makes. And it's fun to coach him. And I think the better would be I'd want to be on his line as a line mate because he makes the right play, and it'll be fun. You always hope that a kid leaves here in a couple of days and he's going to rookie camp. He goes to the NHL. Main camp, you would like him to stay. Every kid wants to play in the NHL as an 18, but as a coach, you would like to have him back at least for one more year.
Yeah, he's turned into a really special player, and I think people are excited about what he can do in the league this year. I want to take you back to some of your playing days. Obviously, you played for a number of different teams, but people would obviously remember you best for your time as a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning and, of course, the Carolina Hurricanes. You're actually one of only 12 players in NHL history to win back-to-back cups, and that must have been a heck of an experience because the first one comes in Tampa under John Tortorella in 2004. And then there's a lockout, which no one wants to reflect back on. And then the year after that, you end up in Carolina under Peter Laviolette and you win another Stanley Cup. What was that whole experience like? And how did those experiences, not only on those winning teams, but under those coaches in particular, how do you feel like those experiences molded your future as a head coach now yourself?
Well, you go back and as a player, you love your coaches, you hate the coach. There's never a coach that you're going to sit there and say, oh, he was great all the time, right? There's always a love hate. But going back, I had Brian Sutter as a head coach. I had Joel Quinville as a head coach, Peter Laviolette, John Tortorella, Pete DeBoer, Paul Maurice, right? Like I've had coaches here that have all, in the last, say, 7 years, all had teams that have gone to the NHL, to the Stanley Cup, won it, went to the final. So I try to take a little bit from all of them. What you liked, what you didn't like, why, and then try to reflect on why didn't I like what the coach was doing at this time. Maybe at that age, or again at 22, 23, 25, you expect that you know a lot about the game, but these guys are always teaching you, and they're pushing you to strive to be the best. So they were great coaches. The experience in Tampa when we won, I was brought in I was traded from St. Louis, I think, at the draft that year to Tampa because free agency was coming up, and Vinny Prospero, they figured, was signing as a free agent somewhere else, which he did. It was in Anaheim. I came in for the 1 year. It all worked out. It was an ideal spot. We won, and then you're right, the lockout comes on, and I was only on a 1 year deal. Teams were, say, at $50 million, $60 million for salary cap. The cap came in at that year, and it was coming down to $39 million. So you had to see who you had on your team. There wasn't any rollbacks. I didn't fit in the structure. I ended up later signing in Carolina, where there was a lot of new signings going on. It's when the game changed, and then Peter Laviolette. I think we might have been a little bit ahead at that time of the game, where the red line came out, which was the biggest thing on more stretch passes and not worrying about holdups. And we excelled there early, right on. Again, we brought in probably 6 or 7 new guys, so everybody coming in was new to the city. Great city, great crowd. I can go back on memory from it. You leave Tampa. When I went to Tampa at the start of the year, we didn't have great crowds, but as you won, they get bigger and bigger. Next, we're sold out all the time. You win the Stanley Cup, and you're on cloud 9. Everything's great. You're expecting to come back. Doesn't happen. I go to Carolina. First game is a sold out, sellout crowd. And then the next couple of games, it seemed like there was 11,000, 12,000 fans back at the game. Now, like everybody wants to see a winner. We got off. It was entertaining. We took off. Next thing you know, that place is humming the whole time. And I can go back to Game 7 there in the Stanley Cup Finals. It had an atmosphere where nobody sat down in their chairs. Everybody stood the whole game. The place was humming, and it's a memory I'll always remember.
Well, you're going to experience some great OHL crowds at the Sleeman Center. They set an attendance record last year, and I think they're gearing up for another one. It's a pretty special barn, and we're excited about it. You touched on this and how much you love teaching the game. And would you say that that's probably the number one thing that entices you about coaching at this level in particular? You get to the NHL, which you've had some experience with, and I think it's certainly more about keeping guys on an even keel and maintaining that consistency. They're pros. Most of them kind of know what they're doing. But at this level, there is a lot more teaching involved. Is that something that you would say you enjoy most about coaching at the CHL level?
At the CHL level, yes. It's and it's different when you get to the National Hockey League. And I'll just touch on that for a second. You got 750 of the best players in the world. We're coming into junior. We're 16 to 19, 20-year-olds. Things change every day. Your body's changing. You might grow 2 inches, 3 inches on how to do it. So I like coming in, teaching really the fundamentals of the game on that side of it. But you can see the progression a player makes. And you come in at 16, you leave at 19. You have 3 years, maybe 4 years to help a kid develop to get to where he wants to be. And you said it, every kid that plays in the CHL wants to be in the NHL. And my goal is to try to help as many people as I can to get there. And you have to realize what each kid needs individually in order to make our team successful. Some people are better skaters, shooters, passers. It's us for coaches to pick out of their on their strengths and their weaknesses, build on their strengths, but also help their weaknesses. And that takes a little bit of time.
I doing this show, I usually ask all your players this question. I'll ask you, when you were playing, I like to ask about the equipment that they like to use. Back when you were playing, what was your preference? What kind of skates were you a big fan of? And the sticks were very different back then. Yeah. Everybody's rocking one pieces now. What was your preferred stick setup?
Yeah, you know what? I got mixed reviews on this one. There was one guy who could shoot the puck 100 miles an hour back then. Well, two maybe. Al Iafrate and Al McInnes. and they had a bomb. Now a lot of people shoot the puck 100 miles an hour. I think the difference between the two sticks is one shoots it, but the wood stick you can handle the puck a lot better. Passes don't jump off stick, so uh, I don't know. The game's changed so much in skates and sticks that it's faster. Guys shoot the puck harder. Maybe they don't control it as well as they used to on passing, but then on shooting, your stick doesn't bend, your blade doesn't bend, you don't break it in the shaft. So I would say that I used Bauer skates, and then I used CCM skates, and then I used Bauer skates. So they go back and forth, and the same as sticks. My first ever one piece was a Louisville. I still have it. In comparison to today's game, it might weigh a pound, where all the sticks now probably weigh about 5 or 6 ounces. So when someone picks it up, it's heavy. But you back it off further. I have a stick that I used when I played in Windsor, Louisville from Windsor, and it feels like a 2x4. And so the game's come a long way. And I think the better the equipment gets, the better the game's going to continue to get.
Who's the most intimidating player you ever played against?
I'll put it this way: different game, different era. They're right on what was allowed then to what is allowed now. The game's changed. There was a lot of players back there that some had a little bit of everything. You had guys that were tough guys. You had guys that were goal scorers, and then you had the guys that were in the middle where if you take an Adam Graves that could score 50 goals but still had 200 minutes in penalties. Those are those. That's a dying breed, but those guys there were special.
Yeah, I often think back to that time, and especially your time in Tampa going toe-to-toe with the Devils at times. I'm sure Scott Stevens wasn't necessarily very fun to take the ice with.
No, that's exactly it. And there was some big hitters. Big hitting was allowed, was in there. Most teams had 2 or 3 defensemen that would stand up and hit a couple skilled guys. Lines were built with skilled up front, plus some guys that would control the game, protect the game, and protect your superstars. So I have nobody that would stand out big. There was a lot of guys in that era that would be like you didn't really want to cross them too much.
Yeah, there's some tough customers back then. It's a little less so now, but there was a laundry list of guys back then that I wouldn't want to go into the corner with. I also wonder who was the most skilled teammate you ever played with, and you played with some good ones.
I was on a podcast earlier one time, and they were saying who's your favorite line mates and who was all this the skill wise. Wow, depending on what you want for skill, I think one of the most skilled guys and unappreciated players in the National Hockey League was Pavel Demitra. He made everybody around him better, and he didn't win any scoring races or anything, but a highly skilled individual.
Yeah, Pavel Demitra, is such a skilled player. God rest him. He was an unbelievable guy to watch on the ice, particularly those years in St. Louis. He was an extremely good playmaker. I ask your players this as well, and I hope you're a country music fan because your room is a very big country room. I was canvassing the guys last year, and I would say 85% of them said that country is their go-to. So I hope you're ready for some honky tonk. I wonder what your preferred, I don't know, pump up, warm up music was back when you were playing. What do you remember hearing a lot in the dressing room when you guys were trying to get fired up?
Well, I think in junior, Thunderstruck came out, right? So a little bit of AC/DC and all that.
You're going to hear that a lot in Guelph.
The biggest thing I would say on that one, if you want to clear out a dressing room where the music is, just put on music the guys don't like, and there'll be one guy in there singing and dancing and rocking his head, and the other guys they're all out somewhere else because they don't want to listen to it.
Yeah, throw some Slayer on or something, and the room will clear out pretty quick.
Yeah, there'll be the one guy in there just loving it though, just like this is what gets him pumped up.
Absolutely, it might be me. I wonder as well. I ask all the players this too. I know they didn't do it back then. Some teams are doing it now. Buffalo and Washington are doing it among NHL teams. If you could pick a custom goal song, what would you have picked?
Um, wow. I've never even thought of that. They always say, what do you want?" And I guess it's more of a baseball center field, but it'd be like, "Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play today." Right. But it's kind of a baseball song, but that would be one that, "Hey, coach, I'm ready. Let's get her going."
I love that. That's a unique one. Hey, that's as unique an answer as I've heard so far. I finally, I just want to ask you a little bit about this league and what it is about it that makes it so special. You're a part of it again. You've obviously had coaching experience, like you mentioned before with Sudbury. You played in the league. You know what it's all about. What is it that makes this league, in my opinion, anyway, and in the opinion of many, the best junior hockey league in the world?
Well, I think the amount of work that goes into getting your players. I think when you look at it, the teams, the Guelph Storm here, the amount of scouts we have, the amount of time those guys spend in buildings watching hockey, covering, all of the Ontario, all down through Michigan, down through say New York, where our borders are. Those guys go out and do a great job. And then what the other part is, you come in, you're getting the best of the best in Ontario, minus a few guys say that want to go to college or whatever. And then I think it's when you put the product on the ice and you can see how guys perform. You are the guys that have come through the OHL in the past, the players, their names, the reputation is there for itself. And you want to be seen. You need eyes on you every night. And again, there's not too many games you go by, even in preseason here, where there's not going to be an NHL scout or scouts in the building wanting to make sure they know everything about each and every individual player.
Well said. Yeah, I certainly agree. It's going to be a great season. The Royal City is excited to have you here. We're very excited to see how the Storm do this year. Cory Stillman, the new head coach of the Guelph Storm. Thanks so much for doing this, my friend.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, everybody. Remember, you can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the Guelph Storm social media channels. And remember, if you want to come down and see Cory Stillman and the Guelph Storm in action this year, you can get tickets online and, of course, the Sleeman Center box office. This is Eye of the Storm, a Guelph Storm podcast with myself, Ryan Drury. We'll see you next week.